Welcome to the latest episode of Renovating Retirement with Charlie Jewett and Bobby Alford. This show confronts the retirement planning industry and reveals all of the tricks, lies, and scams the stockbrokers, insurance agents, and financial advisors use to steal money from consumers. In addition, Charlie and Bobby will teach you everything you need to know to make your own financial and retirement decisions and live the retirement of your dreams. Now here are your hosts, Charlie and Bobby.
Aloha! Welcome back. This is
up.
Bobby and Charlie on Renovating Retirement. We are doing an episode from afar. I am in Hawaii right now. Charlie is in a nondescript location on his own vacation right now. And we did not want to miss a beat, so we are doing some podcast episodes from location. And we're going to go through today a very particular article that's been out for, going on 10 years now, on the top 10 reasons not to buy an IUL or an indexed universal life policy. And what we're going to dive into, I'm going to go through the overview here in a second. But first, I'm going to let Charlie say hello, and then I'll give you the overview of the article.
Hey, I'm also on vacation. I'm about to turn 50 in 3 days, so I'm actually celebrating my, I don't know if it's a midlife crisis, it's a midlife vacation, right? So I'm also sick, so you get a different voice, a different video, a different location. And I brought a shirt that was too wrinkly, you get a different shirt. So we're both dressed in purple, which is fun, why not? We give it a couple bruises to the industry. Purple's not a bad color for us, but some people may know I already did these episodes, and we had to take them down for very, very important reasons, which we will not talk about here. But the show is got a deep integrity, means a lot to us, so we don't have the old episodes up on these articles, and this article remains to be an incredibly important thing to talk about because anytime somebody is misleading or deceptive or doesn't tell the truth in this industry. Many years ago, I declared myself the police just because I thought it was fun. I'm like, well, I'll just kick your butt. You know what I mean? If you're going to be a liar, I'll set myself up in that patrol position. Why not? And interestingly enough, Todd can change his mind, but I'm never saying we're right, you're wrong. But if somebody says 2 + 2 is 5, I say, I really think there's strong evidence that 2 + 2 is 4. Would you come on the show and argue your point on these areas where you say things that seem to be exactly the opposite? I have the email. I can show it to anybody that wants to from his office that says, no, we won't. We will not debate these things. We're just going to keep selling them. And we don't think it would be useful to come on and share our position. It's not going to change anybody's mind. Well, I don't understand that at all. Debate is a huge part of our political system. It's a huge part of hearing both sides. I think that's how the entire court system works, right? You
Right.
hear both sides. So I'm not sure what they mean by it doesn't work or wouldn't be helpful to anybody. We're not here to sling mud. It's more about preaching the truth and helping people see clearly. So let's at least do that. Sometimes you catch me in a mood and I can be a booger, when people are saying things I don't think they should. But in this case, why don't we just go through and talk about what he says? And when you publish words, Bobby, when you put words in public, they are fair game. Same for all my podcast episodes. If somebody comes back and says you said something that's not true, I have to own that, And there's no reason not to. Can you think of any reason to be like, well, I said something that wasn't true, but I'm not going to admit it. It doesn't make any sense. Or I'm not going to change what I teach.
When new information comes to light, we have to reassess. And that's why newspapers print retractions. That's why the entire, not to nerd out, but that's the entire scientific process, right? We make an assumption, we test it, and we get new information and we adjust. And so, to your point, you have done these before, and we're re-recording them today at the beginning of 2022. And they're incredibly powerful because I come from the world of whole life. And that's where I believe, I don't want to overstate, but I believe that's where Todd lives. And in the world of whole life, you have a very particular message. And that message is been true for, 50, 60, 70 years. And it's consistent gains, consistent returns. Everything's in writing. Just don't look under the hood. And I didn't say that last part until I started understanding the rest of the industry. And now that I understand way more than I did, I start saying, hey, maybe it's not everything it was cracked up to be. Still, whole life can be an amazing product. Nothing wrong with that. It's still a great tool for certain purposes. But the idea that it beats everything out there, don't start looking around. Let me sling mud about this industry and that and this product and that. That's where you and I say, no, hold up. We're all about showing everyone the pros and cons to every tool. And if we don't put the right information out, we correct it. And if we hear somebody else put the wrong information out, we go to correct it. So that's what this is all about.
Yeah, it's like somebody says like they're going to evaluate race cars and they drive 3 Yugos. You know what I mean? They're like, race cars are slow, race cars are cheap, race cars are bad. And you're like, oh, a poorly designed car that isn't even a race car, and then it was one of the bad versions of it, or it was a rusty Yugo or whatever. Like, my problem with when somebody writes things like this, it's the same as when Ken Fisher says, I hate annuities and you should too, and then writes an article only about variable annuities. It's sloppy and dangerous. Mm-hmm. Those are nice words coming from me. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's sloppy and dangerous in an industry that needs, like, you can't have a brain surgeon be sloppy and dangerous. You have to be very precise, cutting somebody's brain open, or else they lose the. We're in a similar kind of an industry. You can't make broad statements that aren't always true, and have people believing them, and it's not safe. It's not morally appropriate, in my opinion. Okay.
No, I'm right there with you.
Let's handle the text, right?
All right.
Let's handle the text that he put out. These are his words,
So I'm gonna screen share real quick, and I'm gonna pull up the article that we have been looking at for. I guess it's been out there for about 12 years now. Let's see. It was written in. Do we have it? 20 April. Here we go. Top 10 reasons not to buy equity indexed.
It's April now.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
This is almost exactly 10 years later. So
this is we won't talk about it on the show, but that's a very important date in my life that's coming up.
Yeah.
We won't talk about it on the show. It's a really important date. So yeah, let's get into this and look at we're going backwards. We're going from 10 to number 1. So what's number 10 here, Bobby?
So I'm gonna cover the 10. Overview of what this entire series is going to be about. And it's this article, and I'm going to give you the top 10, and then we're going to dive into each one in particular, and we're going to break it up to keep the episode short and bite-size. So as we go through... Can
you imagine the guy, I forgot about this name. Can you imagine the guy whose name is, this company's called Truth Concepts?
Yeah.
And you offer a chance to speak on a show and share why what you said is true, and he says no?
Yeah, I can't. And it all comes down to incentives, as most things do in life. And what I have... learned about the whole life world is that they don't want to rock their apple cart, and they have built it, and they have a revenue stream from it. And so we'll talk through this and where things differ. And as you said, we're talking, you drive 3 Yugos and you say race cars suck. Well, you're not really doing justice to the conversation. So, all right, top 10. Internal costs are not guaranteed. Mortality charges are not guaranteed. Number 8, market drops cause double pain. Number 7, late premiums will kill any guarantees. Number 6, dividends from index don't get credited. There's an asterisk on that one. Participation ratios are often less than 100%, another asterisk. Returns are usually capped at various interest rates, another asterisk. And guarantees are not calculated annually, yet again, an asterisk. And all of the above can be changed by the company, and the risk is shifted to the insured. So, that being said, we're going to cover the first 2, number 10 and number 9 today. And I'm going to, on the screen, you'll be able to see exactly what is written, but I'm going to go ahead and read it for the people who are listening. Number 10, remember that is the internal costs are not guaranteed. And what he says here is, internal administrative costs or administration fees charged against cash value on any type of universal life policy and shown on illustrations are run under current expense levels, but those can change at the discretion of the company. Since the insurance company uses this money to run its operations, as prices of office supplies and real estate go up, they may choose to adjust their internal costs after you have bought the policy. So, let's talk about that one, Charlie.
It's just so funny to me. Okay, so here he says, like, the reason not to buy universal life insurance and still buy whole life insurance is because there's something that can change. There's something, you're dealing with a business that's in an inflationary environment, and the cost of real estate might go up, or the cost of, it's comical to me. Actually, this list is comical. Well, what's the thing that can change in whole life? It's called a dividend. It's what you actually earn every year. And we have an article. You're welcome to have it. A third-party company went back and did research over 20 years and found that whole life companies promised 6 or 7% when they sold products and then only paid 3 or 4. Why is that? Because whole life dividends are subjective. It's people, it's humans at the end of the year saying, hey, what should we pay these people that we have locked into surrender penalties, you know? So I don't know, if their rent goes up, what are they going to do? Pay you more dividend or pay less dividend? I'm assuming they'd pay less. Historically, they pay less than they promised. So this argument is like, hey, hold on a second here. There's something inside the policy that could change if expenses change. I don't know. What if rent gets cut in half? Is he saying that he's researched the entire history of all insurance companies and whole life companies never change anything, and index universal life companies only raise prices? They've never lowered a price? It's kind of like when people argue, hey, there's a participation rate at 80%. Do you know they could change that? Do you know it could drop to 60? And I go, yes. Do you know it could go back from 60 to 90? Because it's based on the cost of options. So I'm not really sure what the goal was here in sounding intelligent and like saying, here's something to be careful of. Like, the cost of gas changes and I drive less or I pay it, right? So it's like,
right.
Well, if rent goes up, you don't want your family to be okay if you die, right? I mean, if rent goes up for the insurance company, you're going to choose to pay taxes on your retirement income instead of not. What does this change? Now, what is universal life insurance? It's universally applicable to so many more situations than whole life. Why does this exist, Bobby? Why do we even have this thing? Hello. You go back to E.F. Hutton because whole life sucked and sucks, right? The reason you have this tool, like, why don't we drive station wagons anymore? Why do we have minivans? Because station wagons are big and ugly and stupid. And the minivan won. When you compared the two, the minivan was better. So why do we have universal life? Because everyone loved whole life and it was like the answer to everything. And someone said, let's create something unnecessary. No, it's because this very intelligent company, E.F. Hutton, said, well, the tax laws are great, but the product is crap. Total crap. You can't make any money. Okay. So they create what's not even really called universal life insurance. It's called adjustable premium or flexible premium adjustable life insurance, right? Flexible, adjustable. That sounds like my driving. When gas prices go up, what do I have? Flexible driving, adjustable schedule. I just change stuff. You know what I mean? You can call up and drop your death benefit. But the reality is, what do they call that? A straw man argument, I think, when you set something up that doesn't exist and knock it down or whatever, right? Like, do they? Is he actually reporting, hey, here's all these times that these actual companies on these dates have raised the prices? No, because banks are allowed to charge 8% today for home loans, and they only charge 4% because they'd like to be competitive and have us say yes to buy them. So why don't insurance companies historically, there was one, Conseco or whatever, right? And they got in a whole world of hurt. But why don't insurance companies lock you in and then just raise the prices willy-nilly? Well, it's a little harder than that, Todd. It's a little bit harder than like, hey, we got you. You know what I mean? It's way harder than not paying dividends. You know, why don't they do it, Bobby? Because everyone knows you're allowed to leave an insurance company. Matter of fact, you get the right attorneys involved, you can get around the surrender penalties. Nobody wants me to say that, but I've been in the industry long enough. You're not locked into anything. You're not locked into anything, and they know this. They know this. This is not historically accurate, and it is not a reason not to buy anything. It's just a piece of data. Hey, be careful. These businesses also have to work in an inflationary adjustment and have pieces that they need to adjust. If you're going to be their business partner, they're going to pass some of it through. If y'all's experiences, us and them, we alls, however you say that, right? Walls, that's different. How do we do this? I don't understand the point. It's certainly not a reason not to buy something that earns twice as much as whole life historically or on the illustrations and have way less fees. It exists because whole life was crappy and didn't have what people really wanted. So a company made what people really wanted.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand the point.
So I'll add two things to this. Number one, out of all the points in the article, this one feels like the weakest. This one feels like he just wanted to round out the list of 10 and added this one at the end, number 10. Number two, I will say the fees can change, right? And that is just how they fluctuate with costs. Now, what I will add to that is the same thing happens in whole life. The same thing happens in all the other types of insurance. The difference is instead of laying it out there in clear English and saying, hey, we can raise rates, we can do these things, they simply cut back your dividend. And so now instead of the entire performance of a sector or a huge company, you have one company and one board dictating the costs and what's coming back to you. If they shave off 1% of your dividend, maybe you don't feel it a huge bit, but they sure benefit from it. And so if their costs of paper or costs of real estate, to use his two examples, go up, then they're going to shave off part of your dividend, but they're not going to tell you about it. And so what we have learned is when I've kicked the tires and I learned all the Nelson Nash stuff and I love the content and everything else, as I learned about it, I said, hey, maybe there's more to it. And whole life came out first. It's been around longest. It's amazing, but it has evolved. Insurance as an entire industry has evolved. We went from there to index or to universal life, then to variable, then to index universal life, and every step along the way, the products got better. And as they got better, just like cars, like you said, as race cars get faster or more efficient, all those things. To go back and say the Fred Flintstone mobile is the best ever because it doesn't use gas, but that's silly because all the other benefits that come with a really fast-moving car and everything else far outpace getting blisters on your feet. So that's my 2 cents on this point. This is a weak point, but we'll hop back in and unless you want to add more to this, we'll hop back into number 9 and round out this episode. Does that make sense?
Yeah, number 10 is basically like, well, let's ask the question, is that really bad? And is it really different than whole life, what they're selling, the people that wrote the article? And the answer is no. So yeah, go to number 9.
All right. Number 9 is mortality charges are not guaranteed. So as we go down here, mortality charges, what the insurance company charges for the death benefit, are removed from the cash value or paid by premiums. In universal life, these pay for annually increasing term insurance costs. This is true for any type of universal life, no matter what the side fund is invested in, which is a clever use of terms we'll talk about. And the cost for this 1-year term insurance can be changed. At any time. Yeah.
So this is another interesting point here. So the reason that universal life is different than whole life in that it's based on a 1-year renewable term policy. So every year you get older, per $1,000, it costs more, and they can change what they charge for that up or down. He seems to think it's going to be up. Okay, so we'll say it's up, right? So you go, well, what's the answer to that? Let's just have them charge me 2 or 3 times as much from the beginning and leave it high for the rest of our lives. Let's start high and stay high. Not start like in the mortgage industry where I come from. Somebody said, I'll give you a 30-year fixed at 10%, where you can have a variable at 1, and it might change. You go, well, I'll keep the variable until it changes, and then I'll switch to the 10, right? Like, why don't you just do that? So the first problem I have with this is, I guess I have the entire article. I have a problem with him saying, here's something negative, and then just giving data on how index universal life works, and then going, but it's not a negative. It's just data. You know what I mean? Like, here's what's wrong with cake. It has flour and egg. And now where do I go with that? Like flour and egg. It's just data, right? Like, I don't get it. So if you ever were to compare the costs of whole life insurance, what you're being charged, and then the cost of a properly designed index universal life insurance policy, you're going to see a whole life starts high, stays high. So maybe that high cost is guaranteed. They say, we're just going to rip you off from day one and we're not going to raise it. Well, thank you very much, lovely friend of mine. I mean, that's great. And over here, they say, well, it's low. We're going to use a different arrangement. Okay, so what's really the answer to keeping costs low inside of an indexed universal life insurance? Is crossing your finger like a little wuss and hoping the insurance company, their rent doesn't go up and they don't need to charge more over a 60, 70-year period, which is just stupid. They probably do need to charge more. Really? No. Those of us who are intelligent and actually just study go, well, what are we being charged on? They're charging you on life insurance at risk or death benefit at risk, which is the difference between what they have to pay your family versus your own money they're giving back to your family. If you have $1 million death benefit and you have $500,000 of cash value, the insurance company's only at risk $500,000. They give you a family $1 million, $500,000 was already your money. They've got an account worth $500,000. Your money sitting there. They don't charge you the cost of life insurance on your own money going back to you. So it's always the difference between cash value, Bobby, and the death benefit. It's the death benefit at risk, or what the insurance company would have to pay you out of pocket, what they're guaranteeing. Just like car insurance. You say, I crashed my car, Allstate or whoever says, we'll pay it for you. That's what they're going to come out of pocket, right? So they charge you premiums. If they're only going to be out of pocket, the difference between these two numbers, guess what the two most important numbers in life insurance are? Not whole life versus IUL. What's your cash value and how fast is it going up? And what's your death benefit? How low can we keep the death benefit? How high can we get the cash value and how fast can we get it to grow? And then on the death benefit, how quickly can we drop it? Like after 7 years, after 12 years. So to come out and be like, well, they might change it. This doesn't mean anything. Why don't you just say, well, let's assume they're gonna change it. Okay, I love the word gonna. That sounds like an author, right? Gonna. Grammarly would hate me. But let's say they're going to change it in the future. Why don't we just assume they are? Same way we assume taxes are probably going to go up and prepare for it. I'm not going to pay high rip-off fees for guarantees that I don't need, guaranteeing me against something that's never happened, the market going down for 10, 15 years in a row. I'm not going to overpay for whole life because, by golly, this other one starts low and might stay low, or starts low and might go medium. There's no history of it starting low and going rip-off high. So why would I start rip-off high from day one? Other than that, I don't have any strong opinions on the subject, as you can tell.
So I'll add a couple things to this. Basically, what I find this to be comical because they still use the same mortality tables no matter what product you're using, number one. Number two, the idea of not guaranteeing your cost of insurance, unfortunately, the fact is they print out the guaranteed, literally called the guaranteed cost of monthly insurance for the age, for the smoker or not smoker, like different types of people. And they print that out and it comes out with every policy. So you can see for the next X amount of years how much the cost of insurance is projected to increase, period. So the index universal life versus whole life, they take that and they average it out. So they say you're going to have this policy for 80 years or what have you, and they average it out. So you're paying way more in the early years because you're going to end up paying less in the later years because they've already taken your money for so long. On an index universal life policy, exactly what Charlie said. You keep the fees low by lowering the death benefit, by putting as much cash as possible. Now, can you structure any of these policies poorly? Yes. And to that, everyone on the internet is right. Fees inside of insurance can be horrible. But when structured correctly, death benefit low, cash high, it's built properly, we can lower death benefit later, all those things. If that happens, you have an ever-improving product because the costs are going to be decreased by the amount, because the insurance, as Charlie said, they call it the corridor of insurance. It's the gap between death benefit and cash. That's the only thing they're really on the hook for. So when you talk cost of insurance, the smaller that gap, the smaller the cost. And so that's where a properly structured policy is going to outperform damn near anything out there. But whole life versus IUL, you're not able to decrease that, but you're still dealing with the same exact mortality tables. So the fact that they say it changes for one to the other is silly. They're just taking an average. The universal life companies, they do it year by year based on that gap. And so you can tweak things in whole life just like you can in universal, but other than that, I got no strong opinions, as Charlie says.
yeah, both of them. And then I'll finish with this. you don't have to trust us or trust Todd or go, who's right? You know what I mean? The infinite banking people or the renovating retirement people. Here's the trick. Here's how you make it really easy. Whatever life insurance illustration you get an internal rate of return report, which is an optional report most people don't run. Most agents don't even know to go get it. We use it every time. Internal rate of return, the IRR report, and then the policy charges report, and lay them next to each other. And what you will see 100% of the time is what the insurance companies are telling you they're going to charge you. The whole life's going to be way higher than Index Universal Life. And that is with, which we can prove, whole life exaggerating what they've actually paid. They're allowed to show more than they've actually paid over 20-year periods. And Index Universal Life is not allowed to show you what they have actually paid. We have to dumb it down. So one side is exaggerating returns, dividends. The other side is not allowed to show you what they've paid. And the one dumbing it down still has lower fees 100% of the time if you get the right reports. And then you ask yourself, if they're declaring ahead of time that they're going to charge me 1.5, 2 times as much as this other company, and my income is going to be half of what it could be, for some guarantee against the market going down for 10 years, which has never happened, because there is a guarantee inside of whole life. It's just a guarantee against nothing. It's flying cow insurance. I've never had a cow fly through my roof, so I don't pay for flying cow insurance. I don't need the guarantee in whole life against something that's never happened. So it's just, you got to get it to numbers, not opinions. Not, I like global. I like conceptual, right? Do you want guaranteed income or maybe income? I like concepts and making things simple. This is not a place you can go, what do the infinite banking people say and what do Charlie and Bobby say? You've got to go, no, the policy, what are the numbers? Because math doesn't lie. And when you get the numbers, you can have our help. You can get in touch with us. You just email Bobby at renovatingretirement.com. Just ask for the reports. We'll show you how to get them from the agent you're working with, and we'll get them from the competitors or whatever. And you just lay them next to each other and let us teach you how to read them.
That's it. We call that the good news or good news review. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up this one. We're going to hop in and try to knock out this series of podcasts while we're on vacation. Once again, I'm Bobby Alford. This is Charlie Jewett, and this has been Renovating Retirement. See you on the next one.
You people are the best. You're the best.
Thanks so much for listening to Renovating Retirement. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have time, please subscribe to the podcast and consider rating and reviewing the show. That will help others find us. And for show notes, resources mentioned, and to connect, head on over to renovatingretirement.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Renovating Retirement.